Hey, what's up? This is Hans with Requests for Music, and this is the first tutorial for RFM R, which is my program for creating randomized sounds for Synclavier V. First of all, when you download the package, when you bought the package and you download it, you get it in as a zip file. So first of all, you need to drag that zip file. I've got it on my desktop here already, but easiest way is to just create a new folder. So I'll create a new folder. I'll drag the zip file into it. I'm on Mac myself at the moment. So I got my zip file here, and I'll just unpack it. So there's the folder with the RFMR program. So if you open that folder, you'll see the program itself. And I don't think I can zoom in on this. No, I can't. So I've got the program itself. I've got a PDF file. I've got a basic bank with a couple of files. So first of all, have a look at the PDF, which takes some time to open, obviously. So here it is. Let me make it a bit smaller so it fits in the area. Okay, so you got the user manual here, and in the user manual, first of all, there's some slight introduction and then an overview of what all of the areas in the program are, and after that, some explanations of what to do with the program, like selecting the number of effective partials and so on. And in the end, there's how to import and what the types of files, etc., are, and a couple of tutorials for lead files, synth bass, synth brass, synth bat, synth lead, and synth piano, and how you would go around doing stuff from scratch. And obviously that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'll open up the program. And I'll drag it into the screen. There it is. And as said, and as explained in the manual, there are a couple of sections. So I've got a section here which allows you to check or to choose from all of the 12 partials of how many partials you want to be affected by the randomization. Next to that, I've got a couple of presets, and the presets are simple sounds, simple one partial sounds that you can select to use as a basis to work from while randomizing. So there's a simple sine wave, sine bass, sine brass, etc. All of the sounds have a slight effect in like chorus and reverb and delay. Got it set into it, so even the simple sine wave isn't exactly the simple sine wave that is with Synclavier V. Next to it, there's the random range that you can slide up and down on this side for the percentage, and have a button for recalculate, which makes it, as it says, recalculate. The export button exports everything to one single preset, and then there are the areas for carrier envelope, for modulator envelope, where you check the delay, attack, decay, peak, sustain, and release stages of the envelope. Next to it, there's the partial area where you set the volume, the pan, the tuning, transpose, octave, chorus fine, and chorus values. Underneath, I've got the version modulator, the carrier modulation thing, actually the FM settings. So that's FM modulation, FM ratio fine, and FM ratio, which is the chorus, and the dry and wet levels of all of the effects that are in there. And the first one being the reverb, the second one being the chorus, and the next one being the delay. And last but not least, I've got the waves portions where I can select from 14 wave types that you can now select. And there's a randomize button with that as well. So you could actually have that calculated instead of selecting one of those. You have it randomized for every partial that you're going to work with. and underneath vibrato and portamento, where you can set speeds for that as well. Okay, so let's go through how the preset sounds. So I've already made a bank of sounds that's in here, the RFM R basic Synex sounds. So if I grab my Synclavier V program, and well, there are sounds of mine in here yet, but the RFM R basic is not in there at the moment. So let's import the bank. I've got it on my desktop, and I've got it in an untitled folder, and there's the RFM R, and I can import this. So what it now did, it indeed made the RFM R basic folder in there, and I've got all of these sounds in there, and the sounds that I have in there also have types, and the types are at the top right now. So I've got the RFM R bass, the RFM R brass, the lead sound, the sine wave, the syn pad, and the syn piano. And there could also be a syn effects. I don't have that with the basic sounds that I've got in the bank, but if you create a syn effects file, it'll have a new type in there as well. So first of all, let's go through the sounds themselves. So the basic sine wave. No, first let's go through the presets themselves, because those are the standard sounds. Let's see, don't have that in there. Will be in there later. To show off what the sounds are, what the waves are. Sorry. Let's have a look at what the files are. So first of all, the normal standard time slice, you see a partial of 1, and if I look at my time slice, I see the normal waves. And so that's a slightly adapted sine wave, nothing too fancy. If I go to my next sound, because I'm still in the bank of the RFM basic, I can go on, and I've got an octave sine wave here. So you see there's a slightly different wave, which sounds different. And if I go on, I go first into the triangle wave. Which is more useful for soft lead sounds and stuff like that. I've got them only in the carrier now, but while randomizing, you can put them in a modulator as well. I didn't want to show off the combination of sounds, but first let you hear what the original carrier sounds and stuff were. So next one would be the saw wave, which is obviously sharper and more suitable for brass sounds and stuff like that. The next one being a sawtooth rounded, which is also more suitable for lead sounds and stuff, but has a little bit more of harmonics in there. Next one being a real pulse kind of thing, which is very sharp and bright. The next one being a block wave, square wave, a bit more fluty like. The next one being a completely randomized wave, and the randomized wave will be different each time you click the randomize and recalculate button. So in this case, it sounds like that. But it could be completely different, obviously. Next one being a set of waves that have a slight noise in it. %, 30% wave, 40% wave, sorry. 60%. And an 80% wave. So for the brighter sounds. And last is sort of an inverse saw wave with a normal sine wave in there. So these sounds can be used as a carrier or as a modulator sound. So if I now some of the rest of the sounds are the basic bass sound, which is the basic preset that I made for the Synclavier randomized program. So if you select one of those presets from this preset area, these are the sounds that you'll get. This is the bass sound. Here is the brass sound. The pad sound. The lead sound. And piano sound. And a couple of tutorial sounds. The sounds that are actually the settings of what I have in the manual. So in the manual, for instance, you see here this thing about adjusting range from scratch, and this is the settings that I use to create this sound. So is the tutorial from scratch. Here's the tutorial fat synth pad sound. A tutorial lead from the sine wave. The tutorial syn brass. And what else have we here? And a tutorial synthesizer lead sound. And as last one, a synthesizer piano sound. And you see that the waves are a bit different, obviously. And a synth bass sound. So those are all of the tutorial sounds that come with the program, and all of the wave sounds that come with the program. Now let's go on and have a look at the program itself and see what it can do. If you indeed want to use one of the presets and start off with, you can just, because it comes up like this with a random value, with some random values in there, and you can just export and see what it does, obviously. But otherwise, if you have some other ideas, you can start off with, for instance, a simple sine and just see what it does. So if I click on it, you'll see that all of the lines go to a straight point somewhere. And actually all of the little triangles there show the settings for a standard sine wave. And that means that some settings like pan and tuning and transpose and chorus fine and all that kind of values, FM ratio fine, all those values are about mid-range, so you can so they are not out of tune. If of course you want to do that, you can just set a value somewhere, because what you can do is just click in the area of the slider somewhere if you want a higher range for attack, for instance, and clicking once will just set that value to a specific point. So that way you can have one sound which is not so much random. Well, at least you're just choosing a value somewhere, but it's not having a range for that value. If you want that, you can just click and drag in the area of the slider, and that will be your range of randomization. So that means that if you want some low to mid attack times, yeah, very fast times, to a bit slower, you can just drag somewhere around here and will be within that area. And each of the partials that are affected have their own randomization. So if, for instance, I would go back first, so that would be just recalculate. If there's no percentage set, it will go back to these single lines. If you want, however, to have another percentage, you could drag it up to all the way to 100 and recalculate. It goes as far as it can, and it goes within a range, and that range is set from the single line that is there first, and then calculated both sides, and then random. And obviously it won't go further than the top, and it won't go further than 100 parts of that bottom or from that middle center line. And in some cases it will be a large area, and in some cases it will be a smaller area, and I can just click the recalculate button again to see something that I like. So if I want it to be really, really random like this, I could just do that. And it has nothing to do with the sine wave at the moment anymore, because there's FM modulation in there a lot. Yeah, it has all the range of FM modulation. There is ratio in there. There's a fine ratio in there. There's lots of chorus in there. So all of the stuff is affected. Delays are affected. So if I now export the sound, and it is a simple sine wave, so that means that if I wanted to look it up, and actually the file themselves, the file will be exported within the folder of the program. So you see that it's in here. It's called R Sine Random Sine 2018, and the rest of the date and time with it. So you see 2018, September 23rd, 10:45 and 50 seconds. So that means that all of the time information is there, and each time you click and export a sound, it'll get a new time in there. So they will be ordered that way. So if I get in my Synclavier V program, import the sound, and if I'm looking still in the folder, I can have it here, and you see that's imported. You can import it from there. Presets imported successfully. So I can go in here and now have a look in my sine waves type. So here it is. And actually there's a new RFM bank created. So if I select that one, that's the only one which will be in there. So let's have a look at what the sound is. You see, it's pretty weird, because I've got all of the information being randomized. So if I look at the envelope, I see that a lot is done there, and it's smaller. So, well, all of the values are randomized. In some cases, there's hardly any release like here, but it could be a lot stranger than this even. Time slices themselves, I only had the sine wave. I did not randomize the wave sound, so nothing has been done to that. And in the mixer, I can see that a lot of values are indeed randomized. And maybe even if the range is large, it doesn't mean that the file or that the modulation itself needs to be large. It could be somewhere within that range, obviously. So let's have another look at this. And for now, let's go on with one other file, just see what we can do. For instance, with a syn pad. If I choose the syn pad, as soon as I click click one of the presets, it chooses the exact values from that bottom or from that first line that I said. So for syn pad, these would be the standard lines to work from. So if I wanted to recalculate now, I could actually, I could just drag up the percentage, and if I didn't want it to to get that far from an original syn pad, I could do smaller, have that recalculate. And then the only thing is that what I need to think about is if I want to really randomize stuff like delay and transpose and octave and chorus and stuff like that. So I could actually click that off, because standard they're on. You see the green check marks, and I can switch that off for instance, for delay and for transpose and for octave and for chorus and for ratio perhaps. And I could just, let's say that I wanted a syn pad with another kind of sound than sine wave to start off with. So I could do something like a saw, for instance, for my carrier, and a triangle for my modulator. And I'll let it recalculate it again. Oops, I'll let it recalculate again. And I see that lines that I don't affect, like the ratio, are set to their initial values again. And now I can just drag something to slightly rearrange. So if I wanted to have, say that I want 4 partials affected, and I want a larger pan area, and I want some slight detuning, so I drag somewhere around this middle section. And I want the same for my chorus, fine, and maybe also for my ratio, fine. So also somewhere there. And well, let the rest be for what it is, and I'll just export. If I export, you'll see that it has created a syn pad file in there. So I'll drag in my Synclavier V again, import that syn pad. And if I look in here, if I unclick the sign, it will look in the complete RFM bank. So I'll see that my S-pad is there as well. So now I've got it in. Okay, so that was the created syn pad file. So if I wanted it to be a bit different, I wanted it a bit, well, sharper, for instance, I could, for instance, drag this and take the 20% noise in there, and maybe even drag it to 6 partials and lower the volume, because it's getting a bit loud. So I'll drag the volume a bit lower in here. And well, let's say that I want a slightly larger mod option, so I could drag this up a bit. And now export again. It has obviously created a new file in there, so you see that there's a second S-pad file. Go into my Synclavier again, import, double click, go to my bank, and got the sound again. Okay, so that's something that you could do. Well, obviously you can do lots of stuff with all of those presets. Let's go to the final step to show for now, and choose 12 partials and choose random waves for all of those partials that it's going to work from. Let's have a larger attack value, so it can change a bit for both. I could also randomize the decay parts for all of them as well. And now let's export. Click on the button. It's there already as pad. Drag in my Synclavier again. Import the file. It's the top one because I've got my date, my highest date on top. I click it, presets, import it, and actually, because I'm still in the bank, I could go through here, and I've got the newest one on the bottom, so just click that, and all of them are there. You see that all 12 partials have randomized volumes now. I could have a look at the time slices to see what all of the partials do, and you'll see that all of them have different, or it could be the same at some points, but all of them will be different. And since all of the sounds are different now, I could actually go through each of them by using the solo wave. Next one. This is a very random one. Next one. So you see that all of the waves are actually, or all of the partials are actually, all of them are random. So if there's something in between there that you really like and like better than the others, then you can also always go into the standard stuff like this, have the double set up and just check with whichever partial you want and copy and paste that from here. So I think for now that's enough information. I'll leave it at this and come back with a later tutorial at a later stage. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed the program. Cheers, bye-bye.